So Media Matters had an interesting fact about coverage of the debt ceiling debate. 4.1%, a whopping 4.1% of cable evening news guests were actual economists. My next guest is an actual economist. We're here to rectify that. Robert Frank, who's author of one of my favorite books of all time, which is called The Winner-Take-All Economy. And he's got a new book out, which is called The Darwin Economy. Do we have a full screen of that? I hope so. If not, look at that. He's also a professor at Cornell University of Economics. Robert, it's great to have you here.
Great to be on your show, Chris.
Well, first let me ask you what you make of this tax debate, this sort of class warfare charge and the president's proposal.
The president's proposal makes good sense. I mean, nobody who's looked at the numbers, Ezra made the point in your opening segment, you can't imagine how we could possibly balance the budget without additional revenues. That's just a non-starter. Every president in my lifetime has campaigned on a pledge to reduce wasteful government spending. They've all tried, I think, at one level or another to do that, and occasionally there's a cut or two been made, but spending went up in every administration. It's for sure going to go up in the next 2 decades. All the people retiring, all, you know, if you try simple cost-cutting measures in Medicare and you get death panel screams, you know, the latitude for reining those costs in is fairly narrow. So I think without new revenue, there's no hope to balance the budget. We got to talk about where to get new revenue, not whether we need new revenue.
So the place that the discussion about where to get new revenue is focused, as we've been discussing, is at the top. And I want to play you something Bill O'Reilly said, which I think is a distillation of a certain economic argument about incentives, right? The dangers of taxing the rich. Do we have Bill O'Reilly?
If you tax achievement, some of the achievers are going to pack it in. Again, let's take me. My corporations employ scores of people. They depend on me to do what I do, so they can make a nice salary. If Barack Obama begins taxing me more than 50%, which is very possible, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. I like my job, but there comes a point when taxation becomes oppressive.
Now, to liberals, that may sound like a good idea to tax Bill O'Reilly so that he will pack it in. But one of the things, I think the thing driving this is the idea that inequality is actually good. That the inequality is a good because it provides an incentive, right? And the more equal you make things, the less you have incentives for the Bill O'Reillys of the world to let their light shine, to work so hard, and to contribute all the wonderful things they do to the American economy. And I think one of the things that you make a really strong argument about is the costs of inequality, not just in our sort of moral liberal sense, but actually the economic costs, right?
Yeah, there are some really high costs. But anyway, there's no evidence that having greater inequality at the levels we're seeing now does anything at all to stimulate growth. The new work on this subject suggests the contrary. If you look at the United States, when inequality was lower during the 50s and 60s and through those decades, we were growing much faster than we're growing now. If you look across countries, it's the same pattern. So if you had absolute equality, yes, Bill O'Reilly would probably stay home. But the idea that if you raise the tax rate at the margin, not on every dollar you earn, but at the margin on the highest earners from 35 to 40%, that the 40 vice presidents at a company would suddenly start playing golf on Friday and not coming in trying to ascend to the next job on the corporate ladder, that's a fiction. You know, right. There are lots of rewards for doing good work other than the extra dollar you get, and people get extra dollars as long as the marginal tax rate isn't 100%. You know, we're nowhere near that margin of choking off effort for people at the top.